Hey everyone, it's Riley. So since it's fall and Halloween is coming up pretty soon, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a DIY pumpkin hideout for hamsters that is made out of paper clay. I think the finished result actually turned out really cool. I'm pretty happy with it. I did say a little while ago that my hamster chewed on some other paper clay items I made, but recently he stopped chewing on those items, so just a fair warning. Your hamster might chew on any paper clay items you make, but there's really nothing to worry about, because everything that goes into this project is 100% hamster safe. So let's get into the DIY. The first thing you're going to need for this DIY is paper clay. I show you how to make this in a past video, so I'll put that video link in the iCard above so that you can go ahead and watch the tutorial. I even had to go back and watch my own video because it's been about 5 months since I've made paper clay. But this stuff is super simple to make, and I'm sure you probably already have the materials in your house anyways. The next thing you're going to need are 2 plastic bowls that are the same size. You're going to be using these as a mold for your pumpkin, so make sure they're the size that you want. You're also going to need some glue, as well as some non-toxic water-based paint, and this is optional, but if you have Mod Podge, you can also cover your hideout in it at the end. So first we're going to start out with covering both of the bowls in paper clay. Paper clay will shrink a little bit as the water evaporates from it, so I'd say about a 1/2 inch thick wall of paper clay is good. Just be sure to save a bit of the clay for the pumpkin stem, which comes up in a bit. And quick side note, if you prefer it, you don't even have to make a full round pumpkin. Instead, you could just use one bowl and make half a pumpkin. So if you want to skip out on some steps, I think it would still turn out really cool. Now we're going to take a bit of that leftover clay and roll it out to form a stem, and then you're going to attach it to the top of one of the pumpkin halves. Next, we're going to create some ridges in the pumpkin, starting at the stem and going down to the base. You can space these lines out however you want, and if you wet your clay down with a bit of water, it does make it easier to make smoother lines. When you're finished making lines in your pumpkin, flip your base half over and place the top half on top of it just like this, and you're going to press a mark in the bottom piece that corresponds with each line you just made. Now you can separate the halves, flip your base piece over again, and follow each mark you just made up the pumpkin. This makes sure that each ridge you made in the pumpkin will line up in the end on both pieces. And so the next step is just making an opening in the pumpkin. I wanted mine to look like an animal had taken a chunk out of my pumpkin, so I made this weird shape for the opening, but I think a jack-o'-lantern face would have also been super cute. To finish off the hideout, you just want to smooth it all down before it dries. To do this, I took a paper towel that I got super wet with water and I dabbed it all over the hideout and then just smoothed it all out with my fingers. And I made sure everything was perfectly lined up one more time before I left it to dry. Here's the hideout after it dried for 5 days. By this time it was dry enough to take each piece off of the bowl. Whenever the clay feels sturdy and fully dried to you, it's time to pull it off. When I got it off, I let the hideout dry for just a couple more hours, just because the inside was slightly damp. One thing I want to mention is that if you want a smoother texture on your paper clay, you can actually sand it. I chose not to sand it because I liked how textured mine was, but just so you know. With the hideout fully dry, I began the painting process, which is my favorite part of the whole thing. I started out by painting the outside of the hideout in white, so that when I painted orange over it, it would end up being more vibrant. After that, I went ahead and painted the inside with some light orange. When that dried, I went over the inside with some Mod Podge, except I did that off camera because Mod Podge literally just looks like you're painting glue on something, and it'd be incredibly boring to watch, so I'll save you from the suffering of watching that. Once you've got the inside of the pumpkin painted to your liking, you're going to glue both halves together. So I guess you're gonna watch me paint glue on something now. I couldn't find those like glue squeezy bottle things, so I had to use the big gallon of glue we have, and I just painted it on. So, yeah. So I went for the classic orange pumpkin look, so I just painted my pumpkin orange, of course, but pumpkins come in so many different colors and patterns, so I'd recommend looking at reference photos if you want to do something really cool with your hideout. I gave my hideout some highlights just to add a little bit more dimension to it, as well as I gave it some shadows. And then finally I finished the hideout off by painting the stem. Here is the final product, and I think it turned out awesome. I painted the outside in Mod Podge, by the way, and I think it definitely added something to the hideout since it made the pumpkin kind of glossy. Overall, I'm super happy with this thing, and it's gonna go really well with my cage theme right now. I'm going for a fall/Halloween theme. But if you make this DIY, as always, let me know in the comments. That is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. My brain is tired from making the voiceover, and thank you so much for watching.